Your mic.
I know. Welcome to Can We Talk with Deidre Moss. I am the host. I'm an educator, motivator, and a talk connoisseur. Today, I am joined with my former colleague, DeAndre Williamson, who will help us dissect the topic of journalism in the Bahamas. At this time, I will pass the virtual mic to my guest so that she can introduce herself.
Hi, Deidre, and it's a pleasure to you to join you today. I enjoy the offer and the invitation that you gave me to come on your show, and I appreciate it so much. So I'm DeAndre Williamson. I'm a journalist here in Nassau, Bahamas. I'm a journalist at Jones Communications Network, where I work primarily with the Bahamas Journal newspaper. And I love journalism. I love telling stories, and I call myself a journalist of integrity.
You call yourself a journalist with a
Of integrity.
okay, all right. Thank you for that introduction. So, before we begin, if you're tuning in from our social media pages and you just joined us, like and share this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel using the links on our page. We need your support to continue these talks. Also, if you think there's something that we should be talking about, feel free to let us know. We do want to hear from you. Let us know if you would like to advertise on our platform or sponsor our program. And with that, we will get started. And so, Miss Williamson, can you tell us a little bit about your background? I know you said that you're a journalist of integrity, but just share a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, I started in this profession in 2007. So I've been a journalist for quite some time. I've been working at, like I said, Jones Communications. And then I pursued, actually before that, I pursued an associate's degree at the College of the Bahamas. That's where I met you. We were in the same journalism classes, several of them. And then from there, I went to Georgia State University, where I did my bachelor's in journalism. And I completed that in 2009. And I came back home, and then I went um, to Point Park University, where I did my master's degree in journalism and mass communications. And I've had a roller coaster career, I should say, in journalism. I've had some highs, I've had some lows, and I've been going ever since. And recently, in September, I completed a fellowship, the United Nations Reham Alfara Journalism Fellowship in New York at the UN headquarters. I was selected to represent the Bahamas at this during this fellowship. It was a 3-week fellowship at the UN, whereby we covered global news, anything global, pertaining to our country as well. So it was really a wonderful time to meet journalists from other countries around the world, and also to learn more about the United Nations and be able to apply what you learn in your reporting. And I also did, prior to that, I did the Caribbean Climate Justice Journalism Fellowship that was offered by Climate Tracker. And that was a 6-month fellowship. It was done virtually, whereby we focus on climate news and climate reporting in our country and throughout the region. That was also a wonderful experience because I love networking with journalists from other parts of the world, and to network with Caribbean journalists, especially during a time like this. Now we're talking about COP28 in Dubai. So it was great to network with them in regard to that. And also to prior to that, I did another fellowship, the Pointer Coke Media Journalism Fellowship. That was a year-long fellowship. It was a hybrid fellowship that was done online, and we had a lot of conferences and meetups in Virginia and Florida. So that was another wonderful experience that I had as a journalist. And I interned at KDKA TV News in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, during my master's program, and I also interned at CNN in Atlanta, Georgia, when I did my undergrad at Georgia State University. So I've been doing a lot of things. I do newspaper, I do television, I do radio, and I also work briefly at the Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas, just for a few months, because government media and independent media don't really go together. So I left there, and then I went back to Jones Communications, and that's where I am now.
Thank you for sharing that, DeAndre. So you have had a pretty extensive career in the field of journalism, and you certainly grounded yourself in the profession. And I heard you talked a little bit about climate journalism. Um, and what is the role of a climate journalist, if you don't mind
Well,
touching?
we are facing a time in our world and in our region, I should say, whereby climate change, our Prime Minister always say this, Philip Davis, wherever he goes, whenever he discusses climate, that climate change possesses or poses an inexistential threat to our region and to the Bahamas. So we, as journalists, we have to take a role, a very bold role, to really focus on climate change and climate reporting and how it's affecting our community, how it's affecting the way people live. So it's a lot of things we have to do as climate journalists because a lot of stories go untold, I should say, because of, you know, in Bahamian media, we don't have sufficient journalists, I should say, in the profession to really say, designate a certain amount to just focus on climate news. So it has been a challenge in that area, but the reporting has to be done.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, and also talking about the um, important role of a climate journalist, especially given given our position, sorry, as a small island developing nation, and our vulnerability to climate impacts. And so that's very important that we are really focusing on this area, because we are definitely a country that is can be impacted by climate change and all those
We
issues.
are, we are, we are, we are experiencing the impacts all the time. I mean, sometimes it's just not reported the way it ought to be reported, but the facts are there. A lot of times when you hear in the Bahamas about climate change, it's about a major hurricane or some flooding or something like that. But the reporting should go beyond that, and that there are other things that's happening around in our country now. And in things that's happening, we have coral bleaching that's caused by climate change. We have the sargassum seaweed issue that's seen a lot of coastal islands like in Anchorage and Crooked Island, where there were a lot of seaweed. The sargasso seaweed is washed up on shore. I did a collaborative report with that on that issue. That's spurred by climate change, whereby you have an increase of seaweed on wash up on the beaches, on shores, and it turns the water muddy and dark, and it also too it affects the marine life. A lot of fish and stuff die in that seaweed. And I did a collaborative report with that story with a journalist from Jamaica because it's also happening in Jamaica. And the report was also done with a journalist in the Dominican Republic. So, and that was done during my time as a climate um, justice fellowship, during the Climate Track of Climate Justice Journalism Fellowship. That was one of our projects we did. And I think working with that project has opened my eyes in more collaborative reporting with not just with journalists throughout the region and even locally. I haven't tapped into any local collaborative reports like that, but it should be done because I mean it raises awareness as to what's going on in our society, and it also helps us to think about the solutions that can be implemented to solve this issue. And that during that time, like when you report on these situations like that, solutions journalism, you don't know if you're familiar with that term, plays a very important role too in telling your story, whereby you don't just tell the story about the sargassum and what it's doing, but you look for solutions as to what other countries are doing to combat this issue. And you put that in your story, and you could even propose that to government officials and say, okay, well, in Jamaica they're doing this, in Dominican Republic they're doing this to combat this situation. Should we add something like this, or should we introduce something like this to help with our situation? So climate journalism is extremely important in how we tell the stories. It should be done from a human angle so that people can see the impact that it has on humans and society. So more of that has to be done in our country. But like I said, we have challenges in journalism in the Bahamas that is preventing us, and really not just in the Bahamas but in the region, that is preventing journalists from reporting the stories that needs to be heard.
Can you talk a little bit about those challenges?
Well, there are a lot. First of all, a lot of newsrooms don't have sufficient staff. Okay, they're operating on minimal staff. Sometimes you have the journalists in the newsrooms, they're probably not trained properly. Okay, so you have a lot of young journalists in the profession now who come in, probably don't have a background in media, have no training. And sometimes they can't take on a certain level of reporting that needs to be done. So that's the challenge there. And then also too, we have a lot of veteran reporters or the professional ones who you want to see on the news, who you want to see in media, but they don't stay because the profession can't sustain them. Okay, they are being paid properly. All right, the environment isn't conducive for them. Some newsrooms don't have the technology needed that's needed, to continue on and to be competitive. So it's rough. And then also too lately we've seen a lot of the government has been, let's just say, I don't say attacking the newsrooms, but draining the newsroom, purging the newsrooms of qualified professional journalists to come and work for public relations. And that has been felt across the country in all newsrooms. We've seen journalists come in lately, but then they're going on to government communications departments, working in PR and this and that. And because the government offers more money, they have better working hours, they have more downtime, things like that. So those things attract reporters to other areas. And it leaves the newsroom at a disadvantage because here it is, we have assignments coming up all during the day, but not sufficient staff, you know, as is there to really say help, cover these stories. So it's challenging. It is challenging. And then sometimes when this happens, you question yourself as to, people who come in journalism, do you understand the importance of your profession to start off with? Why you even allow the government to even sway you to come and work for them, and give you a couple extra dollars to just take you away from news? And sometimes it seems as though the government is trying to silence the media here, in that because of what the government is doing, it's trying to take away all the professional reporters and really leave the scrapings there, I should say. And you have the strong ones have to stand up and say, you know what, I'm a journalist. I know why I came in this profession. I know why I want to do this. My job is to hold you accountable as the government. Pinpoint your errors, expose the wrongdoings of the government. But but sometimes it's hard, even though it's hard. But if that's what I'm called to do in this profession, I want to do that. Not allow the government to come and take me away from this to do something else to please them. And that's what's happening.
Thank you. There's definitely some hard hitting points to consider as we look at the media environment around us. Those are definitely some hard hitting points, and it definitely is the reality. And it's definitely a scale that you have to weigh in that, like you said, you have to consider the pros and the cons of it. And in that, you have a choice between earning more money, having more free time, and all of those things to weigh in to decide, should I leave the profession that I love, or should I take on those benefits that I need?
Yeah, so
And
yeah,
so,
a lot of journalists, they have this. It's a hard thing because
yeah.
I am also approached by government agencies to come and work for PR. I just got an email the other day, and I didn't even apply for the job. Oh, from the Ministry of Tourism, we have an opening for a spokesperson. We think your application would do. I'm like, what? I didn't even send tourism my application. They got it from another government agency. So they
Mhm.
go after people. They target journalists per se to do these different jobs, and I didn't even respond to that email because here it is. I'm a journalist. This is what I want to do. I don't want to do PR. If I want to do PR, I would have applied for the government agency. Okay, don't come looking for me, asking me, oh, I want you. Yeah, thanks for considering me, but I don't want your job. I don't want to work for the government PR because you're not, as a journalist, you are not the government's mouthpiece. And a lot of journalists allow government to use them into twisting stories into being into giving the angle the government wants, basically. Instead of challenging
Well,
the government,
that's a difficult
they
position to
tend to
be in.
say it again.
That's a difficult position to be in, because
Yes.
can you still maintain can you still have a level of impartiality in terms of
Mhm.
reporting, and being someone working? You don't think so?
When you
I
work
see you
for the
shaking your
government,
head.
honey, just I used to work as NS 8 months. That was it. Okay, and I've seen it there. All right, I was like, you know what? That and some other issues. I say, I can't deal with this because here it is. They feel as though because you work for the government, you serve the government. Okay, you serve the prime minister, you serve the politicians. Their thing come first. Then it shouldn't be like that. Whereas, they have it the way whereby the politicians feel as though when you're working in the government agency that you have to do what they do. So they want you to frame the story to make them look good. Put it like that. Okay. So you're basically just being their PR agent and public relations, do putting out all they went, they signed contract for this. Like you can't even do the investigative reporting into certain things because you're with a government agency. They don't want you to expose their wrongdoings, and that's what journalists are supposed to do. So if you're in a position whereby you can't practice your job efficiently because you work for a government agency, then it creates a problem. And then you ask yourself, am I a journalist or a public relations officer? Okay? And you could even watch the national news. Just a bunch of PR stuff going on. That's what the government doing. No challenging questions as what why, or let's dig deeper into this situation. Let's pull out the dirty laundry, they should say. Let's discuss that. They don't want you to do that. Okay, so that's why private media is very important in this country. But private media can't right now even pay journalists what they ought to be getting paid because the competition with public media and all that type of thing. So it makes it a bit challenging.
Ooh, you're hitting some buttons right there. So we're gonna jump back to that, but I just want to recognize Vivian Pitta. Vivian Pitta is from Jamaica. Thank you. She says, "Good evening to you and your guests." Good evening, Miss Pitta. Do you experience the same
What do you think?
issues in media in Jamaica, Vivian? Add your comments, please.
I could answer something on that because I have a colleague in Jamaica. He used to work actually for the Galena. And I was telling him about the situation whereby we have government, purging our newsrooms for communications, for journalists to work in the communications department, right? He was like, well, we have
Your
the same thing
friend,
in
where's
Jamaica
your friend
too.
from? Sorry.
The Jamaica Gleaner. He's not there
Okay.
anymore. He used to be an editor there.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, so he's not there anymore. He's moved on. But at the time he was there and I spoke to him, I was like, man, we have an issue in the Bahamas with, government trying to purge our newsrooms and put people in communications departments. He was like, they do that in Jamaica too. But it's not felt as much as the Bahamas would feel it. Because in Jamaica there are more reporters, there are more journalists compared to what we have here. Okay, so they wouldn't really feel it how we feel it. And also to that's a government tactic also too, to get journalists working for them and on their side, put it like that. And also to he told me that there are a lot of veteran journalists in the profession in Jamaica who wouldn't even leave even if the government comes after them. So there's not like it's not really like here. They experience it, but not to the point where they feel it. Okay, that's what I was told. I'm not Jamaican, but a Jamaican journalist, credible journalist, that told me that.
Thank you for sharing that, Ms. Williamson. So, Ms. Pitter says it is a struggle when you work for a government agency as a journalist. Thank you for sharing, Ms. Pitter. And so
That
you
is
touch a
true.
little bit. Let me add her other comment. She said, "Yes, we do hear you do not have an opinion of your own, mouthpiece for the government."
Yes, that's true. You are a mouthpiece for the government if you're working, in a government media agency. That's just what it is, and you can't challenge them. And if you challenge them, they will try to penalize you. They will report you to the officials at the news organization. I mean, it's like sometimes you wonder if it's worth it. Okay.
Okay. So we touched a little bit on journalism in the Bahamas and the experiences that you would have had. And since we know that many people, the let's we could stay in the area that we were talking about, but I also wanted to touch on the way how it's changing. And we know that a lot of persons, they're not really sitting like like my parents. At 7 o'clock, they would sit down in front of the TV and catch the news. But that's changing. Um, I think that persons are getting their news now from digital media and different devices. So it's not the same as getting it from print or sitting down to watch the news. It's changing. So I don't know if if you have any thoughts on that.
You're absolutely correct. Yes, the way people consume news now is totally different. Social media has taken forefront. Persons prefer to get their news from social media, different digital sites and all that type of thing. Instead of going to the newspapers are dying, or you all know, or going to the television the old-fashioned way. That's becoming outdated as well. Persons are giving my news on my computer, where I can just log in and just go. However, it's good and it's bad because here it is now. Social media has opened the doors for misinformation and disinformation. So we have a lot of sites that's providing news, but is it accurate? Is it credible? things like that. And sometimes people cannot even decipher whether that's a credible source or an uncredible source. And they tend to take the information from wherever they get it from on the internet without even, looking at it as a trusted source, and take the whatever information is there as gospel, and then they end up sharing it. And then you have this spread of a bunch of disinformation and lies and this and that. And it creates a problem for the mainstream media, because when disinformation is spread via social media, people tend to start believing these things. Mainstream media, we're the credible ones. We should be the credible ones, of course, in this profession, because we do our fact checking and we do all of our the necessary steps before information is aired to make sure it's accurate and correct. So we are left with the point with a problem now, whereby we are um, having to correct a lot of disinformation. Okay, we're disinformation busters. We have to go online and say, oh well, false a video circulated on social media, or some information was spread about this or that, and we have to come back and say, well, it was incorrect after verifying with certain people involved. So it creates a problem, and it's challenging, and people need to be aware of credible and uncredible sources. How do I identify whether a source is credible or not? And more training has to be done for in that regard, so the public can be aware of these issues and be able to spot the disinformation before they spread it.
Yeah, definitely. I think that sometimes people see something that's on TikTok or on other social media platforms. Sometimes they tend to take it as gospel instead of doing research into really determining, is this information really coming from a credible source? I mean, where's this information coming from? And they end up sharing this information all over the place before we kind of figure out, okay, whether or not this information is actually true or false. And so that's a scary part of it. Is that the information is easily accessible, readily shareable, and sometimes it's not always true. So we have to be mindful of those things. And I wanted to touch on whether or not you think the media in the country is biased. And I know you touched a little bit on that. I don't know if we want to go back there.
Well, you have to. To me, as a journalist, to me, sometimes bias starts within. Okay, sometimes journalists come into the newsroom with their own biases. Right, it starts before even the story even starts writing, because you might want to interview a certain politician or a certain community activist because you support that party or that person. So that bias start from within. But to get away from that, you have to be objective. We preach that in news. You have to stay. You have to take yourself out of the story. You cannot tell the story with your opinion. All right, and you cannot show alliance. You have to make your story balanced. I should say, you have to be fair and balanced, accurate, fair and balanced in your reporting. So you don't want to just give a story just talking about the FNM this, the FNM that, without giving an opposition view, okay? Or say, for instance, the PLP. I mean, that's the government now. PLP is the government now. FNM now is opposition. So you want to say, okay, even if you're doing a story on PLP, you want to give the FNM views as well on the same matter. So your story won't be biased, okay? You don't want just one-sided story, because that's not good. But then you have some news outlets that can be labeled based on the content they produce as supporting a political party, okay, or some activist or something like that. And that happens in all media, I should say, all media. You can't, because even though you cover both sides of the political divide and even the third parties as well, um, people still would pinpoint your company as being FNM or PLP or this or that. That's just how it is. But as a journalist in the profession writing a story, you want to be fair and balanced at all times to stay away from that. Okay, that's what it is. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. And as we wind down to the end of our session, I wanted to ask you if there's anything you would like to add that we didn't cover.
Okay. Well, disinformation is a danger to democracy. All right, keep that in mind. It's a danger to democracy, and it's not just here in the Bahamas; it's worldwide, and that's a problem that the world is trying to work on. Even the United Nations trying to put in place measures to help eliminate or minimize the amount of disinformation and misinformation that's being spread around the world. That, and also to There is artificial intelligence now, AI. That's a big thing in news in around the world, and it's in also now invaded news. Okay, and
Hmm.
it's
Oh
going
yeah.
to affect
Can you
the
talk a little
way.
bit about that? That's a big deal.
Yeah,
That's a
it
big
is
deal. Yeah.
artificial AI. Oh gosh. I work for the International Center for Journalists also. I'm the opportunities editor there for the publication IJNet. And they put out a lot of tools and resources, around AI. And, should it be used in newsroom, should not be used in newsroom? That's the big debate in
Hmm.
the international world with AI and journalism. Because to me, I would advise people to stay away from it, especially young reporters, to stay away from it if you have to embrace it, because it can cause reporters to become lazy. It's helpful, mind you, okay? But it will cause you to become lazy because there are apps now created called, Chat GPT. That's something that's been designed. Some journalists take advantage of it so far, and it can even help you write a story. All right, it can help you in transcribing stuff and writing stories, but if you are a professional trained journalist, you have to be mindful that the information that this AI app might give you might not be right. You have to still got to go back and do your research and your investigation, make sure things are correct. Make sure what is said is true before you even submit that to an editor. So it has to be used responsibly. All right, it has to be used responsibly because that's the way the world is heading now, and you have to know, should I embrace this? Should I not embrace this? It's going to help me, but it won't help me. And then persons want it now too for investigative journalism worldwide. They want, to embrace that to help, different things. So especially when getting data, obtaining data for data journalism, they want to use AI for that. But I think that just has to be regulated for the use in journalism. More regulation is needed for that, for use in our profession.
So this app will write your entire story
It,
for
it
you.
has the potential to do that, yeah. But you have to be careful. All right, you could put some information in. It could transcribe your audio, your this and that, and put together a piece of story for you. But is that right? Should that be shared?
Yeah,
It's
that's kind of
dangerous. Yeah, it's good and bad, but you have to be responsible. Yeah, AI in news is a big topic. A big topic. There was even a conference recently too, concerning that. Yeah. Yeah,
that's
so a
scary.
lot is
That's a
changing
scary
in
thought.
in media. And the thing about it is because of all these changes, as a journalist, you have to really understand what's going on in the world and understand whether I should embrace it or I should not. Should I embrace it or should I not embrace it, or how is it going to help me? Because you still want to uphold your credibility as a journalist at the end of the day. Okay, you still want to be the journalist of integrity. Like what I said earlier. So you have to know what to allow and what not to allow when you're doing your reporting with AI. Yes, that's
So when
that's
you
uh,
that's scary because when you talk about the newsrooms and there not being sufficient staff, think
yeah.
about having an AI generator that's going to help you get those stories together, help your team get the stories together and
But
push those
I
stories
don't want to embrace. Honestly, I'm afraid to embrace it. To be honest with you, I'm still doing my research on it and still reading up on it, and
out.
it's like whoa. But I mean, and I don't know. We'll see how it where it goes, because the world's at a point where now globally, trust in journalism has gone down, has declined globally.
Oh yeah.
All right, globally, people don't trust journalists
What do
anymore.
you think started that? Do you think it was the COVID? Do you think it was the pandemic?
I think that was during a long time, long before that. Long before
Wow.
that, people had their differences
Wow.
and news that they prefer. Social media from when social media probably started coming along, the decline
Yeah.
had started. I think it was long before the pandemic, long
Yeah.
before that, because it's like now we're at a point where we're trying to build back trust in media,
Yeah.
in news
Definitely.
globally,
I agree
and
with you
now all
wholeheartedly.
AI and stuff now starting to
Yeah.
twist their way in, and it's creating a challenge. But
You're
how do we
absolutely
navigate?
correct.
Hmm?
You're absolutely correct because you have some individuals, they're not watching certain media, they're not watching certain
Exactly.
news stations because they don't believe that they're trustworthy enough to report the news as is without adding additional material to that or adding their own biases in what they're reporting. And certain people just stay away from certain networks.
That's true. That's true.
You know,
It's happening worldwide. It's worldwide. It's everywhere.
yeah,
But you
it's
have to know
it's crazy.
where That you have to find a trusted source. Put it like that.
Yeah,
Which news
yeah,
outlet do you
definitely,
trust the most to give you the reporting that you want? Okay. And another thing
definitely.
too, locally here, the public. I don't know. We don't think of our public isn't at that level. I don't know. We don't talk to the people in the public a lot, but the public plays a
Yeah,
major role in news reporting and news and information. Okay, because a lot of times, because the public has the right to demand from journalists what they want to see on air, on in newspapers, like the kind of stories that they should be putting out there instead of politics all the time. Okay, what else is there in your community that has to be highlighted, that should be highlighted? And sometimes the public just, because I don't know if they're probably fed up with us or what, but they don't really say all of that, like that. So that's another area where journalists should be tapping into, especially in local news, allowing the public to say, hey, look, what I want to see on TV, what I want to hear on radio, what I want to read in newspapers. Okay, is the news about the average man? Okay, or is it just about the elites in the society? So we need to get more public involvement, to me, in media here, so that we can tell the stories that the public wants.
definitely, definitely. Thank you for adding that. I want to get to Miss Pitter's comment. She said it's obvious that you, meaning you, is a good journalist. I wish her the best in her endeavors. I'm retired now, Deidre, so I have more time to listen to your presentations. Thank you so much, Miss Pitter. And it's always good to have you come on board because you bring in a different, perspective, being someone within the region. And so I'm always glad to have you joining and add in your insight. Your program is very informative, and I've learned a lot since listening. Thank you so much for joining us today. And she said it's obvious you're a good journalist, Miss Williamson.
Thanks, Miss
Love
Peter. I
it.
appreciate that so much. Thank you.
And are you going to take on that spokesperson role? I'm not.
Me? Uh,
Yeah, yeah, you.
a spokesperson? Yeah, I mean, what you mean, as an advocate for journalism in the country?
And see, you that first comment where you made the offer that was extended to you. I'm
Oh no,
teasing
no,
you.
no! I already turned it down. Turned that down. No. Oh no. I'm not.
I'm
I'm not
teasing
going. I'm
you.
not going to go down that road. I had another opportunity too to join government, PR. But it's like, no, I'm not. I'm not that. I'm not going to be a mouthpiece. Okay, you want my skills? Okay, to tell your story and to advance your agenda, but I can't operate as a professional journalist around you. Okay, so why should I even work with you? Because you're giving me a few more dollars extra than the regular private media company, giving me more benefits. Okay, but I mean, I could do without that, honestly. So
I was
no,
teasing
no,
you,
no.
girl.
But my thing is now in my as where I am now, my profession. I know that a lot of news organizations around here, they can't really afford to pay, like I said earlier, journalists what they ought to be paid. All right, and I would encourage journalists who are going through that time right now, that situation, have to make that decision. Should I stay with private media or government media or go into PR? I would say, especially if you really want to be a career journalist, because I don't think we have a lot of career young journalists in this country. They come into profession for a few months or few years and they leave and go into something else. We want to attract more career-minded journalists. And I know newsrooms have to step up the plate, step it up and provide competitive salaries, provide better benefits, those type things. But when you can't do that, and you tell your employees you can't increase their pay, what should the employee do who wants to stay in this profession? So my advice to that employee who wants to stay in this profession is to seek opportunities elsewhere, outside the Bahamas. Okay. There are regional opportunities whereby you can get more training as a journalist, international opportunities as well. You can join journalism fellowships. I've done several of them and they were great to my career. And also to some fellowships also pay. All right. And they pay you better than the newsroom will pay you. Okay. So I would encourage journalists to do that, who wants to stay in this profession, in this field, and also to look for grants, story grants. All right. Sometimes, even with climate change being a big issue now worldwide, there are grants for persons who want to do climate stories. Okay. So if you want to pursue an investigative piece on climate journalism or on a climate issue in the Bahamas or wherever, there are organizations that are giving out grants. really great size amount grants for that piece, and you could get a nice salary or pay out of that. Okay, so depending on how long your project lasts, things like that, which you agree to. So those are ways journalists can make more money and stay in this profession if they really, really want to do it. And I've benefited from that. And I would encourage anybody else who's listening as a journalist here, to seek opportunities. I'm the opportunities editor for the International Center for Journalists, like I said earlier. And my job is to share opportunities for journalists globally. Okay, so we post every single day from Monday to Friday opportunities for journalists um, in the U.S., in the Middle East, China, Asia Pacific, Africa. We cover the entire world, the Caribbean, and just look and see what is out there for me. How can I benefit from this opportunity? All right, we have scholarships available. There are courses, free courses, webinars, so many things to keep you motivated to be a journalist. And I want more journalists here to embrace them, because sometimes I would share opportunities in our WhatsApp groups and stuff, and they wouldn't even bother to apply, some of them, or even say I'm interested in it. So I want journalists here to have more passion for what they do. Okay, that the passion I see is displayed by young journalists in newsrooms. It's not, you don't really, some of them are not passionate about it. They just need a job, need to pay a bill, so you come to work. You see, and that's not going to get you too far in this profession. You have to want this, and then you have to really say seek personal growth as a journalist. Go there, attend the workshops, attend the conferences. There are many, a lot of them going on around the world, and take advantage of it. If you feel fatigued and tired, go to a conference. All right, there are a lot coming up next year. Go to them, and trust me, you'll leave from those things refreshed and really want to pursue more in this career.
Thank you for those remarks. I was just highlighting Miss Putta's comment. She says, "You are such a wise young lady. I love you." Okay, we
Well,
love you
thank you
too,
so
Miss
much,
Pitta.
Miss
We love
Pill.
you too.
Love you too.
So this brings us to our fast talk segment. I'm gonna give you 60 seconds to answer each of these questions. So, as a trained journalist, are you satisfied with journalism in the country?
Not right now. I'm not 100% satisfied. There is more that can be done. We need more qualified journalists in the profession. We need more veterans to come in and provide mentorship. Okay, I see too many veteran reporters or veteran journalists in the Bahamas just criticizing the young people. Okay, your criticism ain't going nowhere if you're not going to help them. Come in the newsroom, ask to be a mentor for someone, provide your expertise, lend them a helping hand. Criticizing them on social media will not help. Okay, and that, to me, I think more of the veteran journalists should step down, lend a helping hand. Someone helped you to get where you are, so why don't extend your helping hand to help someone else get where they need to be? So I extend it to, we need more mentorship in news organizations here.
Do you think that the news media is biased?
Can be at times, depending on which company you're talking about. Media can be biased, yes, but which ones? The private media, the about government media, know how it goes. So it can be, yes, in some instances, yeah.
What is one recommendation that you would make? I know you talk about the veteran journalists coming in and being mentors to new journalists entering the field, but is there another recommendation that you can put forward just to move us forward, that can move us forward in this area?
Well, I would like to see more training, more collaborative reporting. That's what we need, that because even though our news cohort here in the Bahamas, I think it's very small, compared to other countries in the region and the United States and all around the world. We're small. So I think we should come together as like-minded journalists and provide training and workshops for other journalists in the profession. Okay, because here it is, we have a lot of journalists who would start off in my newsroom, JCN, where the young ones come and they learn what they can learn, and then after that they go to another news organization, get what they can get from there, and they go to another news organization. So they hop around. Okay, a lot of journalists around, you hop around, you'll see one on one station and then the next day they on something else, and But so I think because of that, we should have more collaborative training whereby everyone will be on the same page when it comes down to, what I'm getting in my newsroom from you. Okay, because I might train a journalist a particular way. When they go to your station, it might be a different way there. So they need more training. Okay, training, workshops, incentives. I think we should have like more scholarships for journalists to attend even UB here. All right, more scholarships for them to attend UB, and more programs to make them to get them interested. Have fellowships, things like that. Talks like this, like what you're having, podcasts like this, whereby we discuss what's going on in the profession. How can we report on a particular story? How should we cover the elections? Things like that. Little simple stuff like that would provide more camaraderie and more friendship and more, get journalists involved and fellowshipping with each other and learning from each other, I should say. More of that has to be done. And we also have the Bahamas Press Club. That's an organization here that has to be mobilized more and needs more journalists who are interested in the profession to want to take it on to the next level. So that's an avenue too they can get involved in as well.
Thank you. That brings us to the end of our fast talk. And as we come to the end of our session, I want to throw it out to you again and give you an opportunity to add any additional comments that you think that we didn't cover, or anything else that you want to raise, any other points.
Okay, I don't know how familiar you are. I mentioned this briefly earlier about solutions journalism. Okay, solutions journalism, that's whereby you provide a solution in your story. Okay, and I think more has to be done in our reporting in that regard, whereby you don't just give the news or present a problem or issue without providing a solution for it. Some people can say, oh, that takes too much time, because a lot of times in newsrooms, you're under deadline stress, deadline pressure. You have time to do extra research in providing the solution. So I think more should be done in that regard, because I've heard this topic globally, but I've never really had a chance to discuss it with journalists locally. Okay, so that's something we can consider going forward, especially if we're doing investigative journalism. The solutions should be a part of your story. Okay, and going forward, even for myself as well. But like I say, the time constraints and stuff, but it should be considered. Yeah, instead of just giving you the sensationalized piece, let's talk about the solutions to crime. Okay, what is another country doing to address this? Things like that. That should be a
Oh,
part of your,
we're going to touch on that. But I
yeah.
just want to highlight Miss Lisette. Hi, Lisette. Thank you so much for joining us. Lisette is from Jamaica. Hi.
Oh,
We were
hey.
you didn't miss us, so you could add, because I know Vivian would have shared a little bit about media in Jamaica. So if you want to add anything to that, Vivian is saying solutions journalism interesting. We're gonna come back to that, Miss Williamson. But if you want to add to the media in Jamaica, Lisette, feel free to add as well. Okay. So let's talk about solutions. Hey, Lisette. Solutions media. You mentioned something about crime. Yeah, we're reporting on crime, but how can you move that forward and talk about solutions? So yeah, add that crime component into that. That's
Okay,
very
yeah. So
interesting.
a lot of times we give the crime report stories just on what happened, the police said this and that, and that's about it, right? And then go cover the court case and what that. But there's another side to that. Okay, it's a solution side. Okay, so let's take another Caribbean country, for example, in Jamaica or Trinidad and Tobago or Grenada. What is being done? A successful solution now that's being done or implemented to curb this matter or matters such as this, and you present that in your story as well. Okay, and that can help bring balance to your story. It can help bring understanding to your story, and it also can help readers to be more informed, and it can also help policymakers to even consider that solution or to seek out more information on that solution to help curb the problem in your country. So that was solutions journalism, because journalists, we are also change makers. We have the power to bring about change. So that's why it's very important when you enter this profession to understand what it is you're getting into instead of coming in here. So whenever the government comes and say, hey, look, I want you to come work in my PR department, communications department, but you have to realize, hey, look, working in that government department is going to stifle my career as a journalist, because I want to bring about change. I want to be able to implement solutions through my reporting that would help the government in becoming better and addressing the problems of society. So how can I use my reporting in that regard? And that's where solutions journalism comes in. It helps you in bringing about change too in your reporting. Oh, sorry, in
That's
actually in your
interesting.
reporting, and also too in the way the public accepts information and in the way policy is being created. Okay, yeah.
That's interesting because so are you as a solutions journalist, you're supposed to bring forward when you report the matter, if you're reporting a crime, are you also responsible to bring a solution to the table as a journalist?
You know that's not your. I mean, you don't have to, but it's another way to inform readers or inform the public. Okay, with solutions. Don't
Okay,
just. I mean, you give the crime story, but give me a solution that another country used to solve its crime problem here.
gotcha.
You see, that's
Gotcha.
that's what it is. Yeah.
So in doing that, you would have persons to say, okay, well, really, your job is to just report the news. So, I mean, adding this extra component, what do you say to those persons who say, we just want the news from you? We don't want these, we don't want your opinion and all these other stuff. We just want the facts. Just report the
Well,
news.
solutions
What
is
do you
not
have
my
to say about
opinion.
that?
It's not going to be presented as my opinion. No, 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 no. It's not going to be. I think you should do this. It's how you write it. Okay, we could use an example and say, well, in a certain country, this um, measure was implemented to curb this problem, this crime issue here. It could be added to your story as a suggestion. Okay, and it also too it doesn't say you have to that's your opinion. That's not your opinion. It's just an example. All right. And also, to solutions journalism was introduced to help increase public trust in media. Because some persons complain that, oh, you only give us a sensationalized thing. What else could we get from your story? What else is there available for us? Okay. So that has been introduced globally for to help with building trust in media. Okay.
So Lasetta is saying journalism comes with responsibility. Old style
Mhm.
journalism was and should always be a problem solving medium.
Right. She's correct with that. Yeah, because we supposed to be as journalists, you're supposed to help not just talk about the problem, help find the solution, help that person who you're talking about find help. Okay, it's supposed to be you're supposed to guide it into help, not just putting the information out there or exposing something and just leaving it there. You're supposed to follow up on that story, so at the end of the day you have another story that talks about the change that came around as a result of what you reported earlier. Okay, or how this person got help in that regard, and if you
It's
understand.
very interesting. Very
Yeah,
interesting. Do
and
you
that
see a
part has
lot?
been missing a lot locally in local news here. Because
That's what I was
I could
thinking
be
too.
honest, I don't always put the solution in the story. Okay,
Wow.
yeah, because it takes time to. That's part of it. That's the research part right there. You go and you have to research
Yeah.
that part. You can't just come up with something out of your
Mhm.
head and say no. You have to research that. Yeah,
Do you
and that
see
could
a
be a
lot of
follow up story another day.
do you see a lot of that happening now in media? Do you see
Well, locally, no, it's not happening locally. Not that I'm aware of. I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't see a lot of solutions journalism locally. No, because we didn't even talk about that. But globally, I've seen a lot of it globally. Yeah, at
interesting?
some outlets. Yeah, and I see
Some
the solutions journalism part comes in more with independent media, independent journalists who
mm,
step away from the newsroom and have more time to focus on their stories. That's where
yeah.
you'll see solutions part come in those type reports.
Mm,
But the daily general assignment reporting, you won't always see that. Not here, but it's needed, I must say.
definitely, definitely. A very interesting topic you threw out there. Thank you. Ms. Pitter said, very interesting, great discussion. Thank you, Ms. Pitter, for joining us. Don't forget to add your comments. Feel free to add your comments before we close out this session tonight. And I just want to get to another comment. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Concerning what media here, our coverage here.
No,
Girl, okay, though, it's like I don't some things you don't even want to say because it's like
I know.
it's like you don't want to be picking on nobody, calling no names. So it's like yeah, but what do you think about journalism here? Look, as a journalism student, you was in the profession. We started out together, we graduated together, but you're doing something different. All right, how did that happen for you? You twisted on us. You took a left turn long time.
To the left, to the not really, because I in a sense I feel like I'm still I will always be a I will always be a journalist. That's how I feel. I don't think you can ever really say you dabbled, you've studied it, and you can really walk away from it. Everything that I watch it from a journalist mindset. So I feel like I will always be. I feel like I will always be a journalist and apply the training that I got in some way, wherever it is, whether it's in print, in writing, but I'm sorry, in print, in media, whatever it is, whatever medium. I don't want to babble over my words. I don't know why you making me nervous tonight. I don't
No,
know. You make me so nervous. I don't want to babble over my
but
words.
you're doing well because you're doing a podcast. That's under journalism. That's communication. So that's good. So I like
Thanks.
you like that. That you're still basically in the profession then.
Yeah, I'm still
Yeah.
dabbling. I'm still dabbling in it. And
Yeah. You're
I'm
not.
so
You're not.
proud of you, because you were
Uh,
would have been one of our colleagues who really, like, you really took it and ran with it, which is awesome. Because I think what happened for a lot of us who would have studied in the profession, when it came down to finding work and finding something sustainable, that is when you decided, okay, how am I now able to sustain myself? And we had to make a choice. And so for a
right.
lot of persons, you it's something that you love doing. This is the profession that you love, but you also have to live. There's reality in this real life. You also have to live, and you need a sustainable career. And so for some persons, they probably felt like, if I moved into another area, that would be more sustainable for me and my family. So whatever choice people made, they did what they had to do. But I'm
Well, that
proud of
goes
you
to my
because
to my
you
next
ran.
point then. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. My next point, as you said, it's making yourself sustainable. Okay, and after graduating from college, finding a job and all that type of thing, that is still an issue here
Yeah.
locally. We didn't discuss that. A lot of journalists graduate from UB. We came from COB, same schools, just name change, and a lot of them didn't even have a chance to even work in the newsroom. And because of that,
Absolutely.
they end up going into something else. They want to be a
Yeah.
journalist, mind you. They're happy, they're passionate,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
because they couldn't find work, newsrooms weren't hiring, they got discouraged and went into something else. Like, I know a lot of persons from our year who went
Yeah.
back to COB to do something else because they couldn't
Yeah.
find a job in the profession. And it's like, it's still happening. The cycle is still there.
It's still happening. It's
A
still
lot of
happening. I know
students
persons who
year
went
after year
back
graduate from
and
UB
they,
and they can't
yep,
even get in the newsroom. And on top of that,
yep,
sometimes honestly they don't be fit for the newsroom no how. Okay, so that's another thing, and it's another
yeah.
issue that we have. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a whole nother issue, because I know persons who would have completed their associates. They, at the time they had their associates, they went back and they went into teaching. They went into different areas. So
Yes.
yeah, yeah, we have a lot of that. I
Look
want
at
to get
our,
to
our class. We
our
finished
class. Yeah,
in
who I know personally.
2007. We finished
Why you
COB,
dating
right?
us? Stop putting the date on us, please. Thank
But,
you.
but still, we look younger.
Don't put the date. Don't put the date on there, ladies. Thanks.
But still, yeah, that's from our year, right? How many persons
Right.
in our year still in journalism locally here?
I don't know.
Oh, from our
I don't
class.
know. I don't think it's a lot, because I know some of us went. Some went into education. Some went into banking. I mean, they all over the place. I don't.
All of it.
The only person who I know who is currently in it is you.
Exactly. And my reason for being in it too is I think I would have been the same way because my reason for staying in it and really being in it is because my family is involved in media. Okay, Jason, that's my people. So it's like I I'm in regardless of what. Okay, so but then other students don't have that privilege or that opportunity to
Yeah,
say, well, I have family work in this profession who could get me a job or something like that, and they tend to release, tend to get discouraged and go elsewhere. You see, so that's what it is. I think I would have been the same way if my family wasn't in the profession. That's just how it is in this country, and sad but true.
definitely.
So
Well,
that's
I didn't
just
think we was
that's
gonna
just.
go there. I didn't think we was gonna go there, but anyway.
But I mean, you have to because that is happening. Students should know. I mean, because
Yeah,
here it is now. We'll
reality.
get applications and stuff from students and stuff, but we can't hire everybody. And then other news we can't hire everybody either. It's just only a limited amount of space, a limited amount of spots to fill. And you still have students who graduated from UB and still in the profession can't find a job in journalism. And it pains me when I see someone die who I know wanted to be a journalist and they didn't have a chance to work in the newsroom. Okay, because there was someone from our class. She died during COVID, but she went and she did something else, and she never got a chance to work in the profession.
Really?
You know,
Oh,
I don't know. You know,
I
tomorrow
get a
she was in our
yeah,
class
yeah, 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 yeah,
during
yeah.
COVID. God rest her
Yeah, I
soul.
remember her. Yeah,
She went to do
yeah,
immigration. She was in immigration because I would see her to the airport
yeah,
sometimes when I come home. She would stamp my passport and we talk about certain things. And I was sad when I
yeah.
heard she died during COVID. And she started off as a journalist, but she never got a job in the profession. You see, and she had to go and do something else. And now she's not even in here no more. Okay, so that's the stories. We need to something that something more has to be done to really. That's why we need more programs in place to embrace young journalists in the profession, so they won't get discouraged and go into something else before even getting a chance to work in a newsroom. And that's the problem we have here. It's not being talked about. It should be talked about.
Yeah.
So I think that's where the press club should come in and help with things like that.
Definitely. I want to get to Nikki. Nikki said, I never considered journalism from that perspective. Good talk. Thank you, Nikki. I think she's talking about the solutions journalism.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lisette, Nikki, I think you're from Trinidad and Tobago. Yeah, Trinidad and Tobago. Yeah.
I like
Lisette
this
is
comment.
saying some blogger.
I like this comment she have here. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
This
Lisette?
comment. Yeah. Some
Oh,
bloggers. Yeah.
Lisette. You can read it. You can read it.
It says some bloggers think they are journalists and bring subjectivity, which I find is dangerous.
Hmm.
Swaying the public into violence is irresponsible. Yes, it
Hmm.
is. And there are a
Yeah.
lot of journalists, not journalists, sorry, bloggers out there who think they are journalists. Okay. There's a name called citizen journalists, they call some people like that. But they're not professionally trained journalists. And they could be a danger to society because they put out information out there and people believe them, and then they get afraid and discouraged, and it ignites violence and all this other thing. And then you wonder what's going on, how to get like that. And then the mainstream media have to come and combat that and say, pull on those lies and say, no, that's not so. It doesn't work like this. So the bloggers, yeah, they need to exercise professional journalism or professional ethics. There are ethics that governs this profession. Journalists, we are to seek truth in our reporting at all times. All right. You want to be first with your report, but you got to be right. It has to be right. It has to be fact checked. It has to be proven correct before it goes to the public. And certain ethics and principles that we have in journalism should be shared with bloggers or citizen journalists, like they call themselves, and let them know, you don't just go on a murder scene, take someone's face or bloody up, dying, and post it on
Oh
social media.
man,
Some people, they
that's
do that.
yeah,
Locally here,
yeah,
they do that.
yeah,
And
yeah. It
that's
happened. It
that's
happened. Yeah.
totally against responsible journalism. You don't do that, okay? The family don't even know the person dies yet, but yet in the face of the body all over social media. That is irresponsible to the highest level, and
Absolutely.
it has to change. And sometimes I don't know, some bloggers, they think they so, I don't know, powerful and stuff. They don't want to take the correction that's given to them. So I think because of that, there has to be laws. I think should be in place too to help to combat these things, especially if someone continuously does it. There has to be someone
Are you
has to
talking
come and
about local bloggers?
local bloggers. We have local bloggers here. A lot of those political pundits and stuff. You call them whistleblowers, those type of stuff. Those type of social media pages and all that type of thing. Send out all kind of false information sometimes. People believe in it. They share it. Okay, but there has
Yeah,
to be
because
something in place to curb that.
definitely. Yeah, because I've seen some reports of that just reporting someone died and the person was alive and well, and people actually
Yeah,
believe that. You know.
yes, people. Yeah, oh my goodness, a lot of that go on around here. People, this person's still alive, and the reports all over social media. Person done there.
Yeah.
So yeah, there has to be. Obviously, it happened because the person who posted it didn't fact check. Didn't just went by hearsay. Heard someone say so and so probably died, and they took it upon themselves to post it. But that should not happen if you're following the principles, of responsible journalism. But I don't consider them as journalists. No, you're not a
You don't.
journalist. You're just blogging and posting up stuff. No, this name is being a journalist comes with a level of responsibility, a level of credibility. Okay, so you can't say you're a journalist and doing those type stuff. It says that the law of the land should be to deal with misinformation and creating public mischief. That says that, and that's true. Yeah, more laws should be in
Hmm.
place with that to deal with that. We have some the police have cracked down on some persons who were sending out voice notes and stuff. I know that they've been cracking down.
What
Yeah,
do you
on
mean? What do you
false
mean?
voice notes, false information. You have some persons who
Share?
gotten in problems. Yeah, they got charged and stuff. They get in problems
Can
with
you
that. You know,
share? Can you share a little bit about that?
well, that's some case. Not everyone who does it get in trouble for it, but the ones that go to to the extreme extent, you would yeah they've been before the courts for things situations like that.
Give me an example. Sending a voice note like,
The voice note with false information concerning the government, especially if it's related to
okay,
government. Yeah,
okay,
and with threats threatening people. Yeah,
okay.
persons have been brought before the courts for things like that. Yeah. hmm What is that saying? We have the Cyber Crimes Act in Jamaica. Well, that's good. Cyber Crimes
Hmm.
Act. Yeah. Yeah, you need things like that has to be in place because perfect people will, I mean, they will destroy you in no time with the false
Yeah. Oh
information.
yeah.
Oh, in a small society like ours, man, one lie will have you finished for the rest of your life. And people will remember that. You see, they remember the lies instead of the good information. They remember the lies. So that has to be more laws and you know um have to be drafted and to help with that in our country. Made more and more enforcement too. I think because we might have some of them on the books, but I don't know if it's enforced, fully. Because some people be like, "Oh, we have freedom of speech and this and that." So all these things tend to conflict with these type of stuff. So clear laws have to be in place for that.
Definitely, definitely. Well, Miss Williamson, we have run the course of our time. Listen, we can this conversation runs deep and wide because it's
Yeah, that's
so
deep. It goes deeper than this, but
it's so Leanne, thank you so much for joining us. This conversation goes deep and wide, and there's so many facets of the media, so many components that we can talk about and take on. But I'm happy that we were able to touch on some key areas in talking about journalism in the Bahamas, and I want to thank those persons from um, Nikki from Trinidad and Tobago, Lisette and Vivian from Jamaica. Thank you for adding your input as we try to understand journalism in the region and addressing these issues. We talked about AI in journalism and the dangers of using AI generated storytelling, and talk about solutions journalism, which is something I find very interesting. Um, we talked about persons who would have started within the field of journalism and kind of ventured out because they didn't find the career sustainable enough. And so we touched on some key points. And so with that, I want to bring us to the end of our session. I want to thank our viewers for listening in and joining us today. And I would also like to thank my guest, esteemed journalist, DeAndre Williamson. I am so proud of you. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for your time.
thanks for having me,
And
Deidre. I appreciate this.
absolutely, absolutely. And so we want to remind you, if you want to advertise with us, if you want to advertise, or you want us to talk about something that you think we should be talking about, we want to hear from you. Feel free to reach out to us using the contact on our page. We want to grow, so grow with us. To those listening via social media, thank you for listening in. Like our page for future notifications of upcoming talks. I know we've been away for a while, but we're gonna be back. We're gonna be back. Introducing. Leon is asking whether will there be a part two. DeAndre,
Yes,
Miss
we can
Williams,
do a part two. We can, yes,
we'll do
of
a part
course.
two.
Yeah, let's let me know when, and I'll make myself available.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay. Because I know you're busy, lady. I know you're busy. Um, and so sorry to. What you are? Why you laughing? You're a busy lady.
I
Legal
am. Yes.
action. The offended individuals should get their lawyers to assist them in getting justice. You're talking about those persons who would have What are you talking about, Lisette? I think I know what you mean, but I'm not sure. Um, legal action. Leanna saying legal action. Um,
Surely she mean the persons who are affected by the misinformation or disinformation that goes
it's,
out about them. Like you're talking about the
yeah.
voice notes
Oh
that
yeah.
the
Yeah.
voice and stuff. So those persons offended, yeah, should seek legal. Yeah, of course. That's what she's meaning. Yeah.
Definitely. 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 Okay, so we're gonna come back to this topic. Thank you for joining us today. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel and also follow us using follow our page to get our notifications. Thank you for joining us today, and remember, let's think, talk, do. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good evening.
Bye. Thank you.